Whoa! April Fools, everyone.
I feel like we should be on a ride.
Oh yeah, it does feel like an amusement park ride song.
It does definitely
right?
sound like
like you're waiting and queuing in line at a Disneyland
this
ride.
is what plays when the ride is over and you're walking out.
Yeah.
Or this is the entrance, the queuing line of what's it called? Like a Six Flags ride.
It's like Dante speaking here.
Yep.
All right. Well, dang, that's an epic song. Wow.
Sure is. Where's that from?
It's from Galaxy Quest.
What's that?
It's the movie that at the 2013 Star Trek convention in Las Vegas was considered the 7th best Star Trek movie of all time.
Wow.
In a fan ranking.
That's
to the
pretty
point
funny, actually.
where they were originally going to do the fan rankings without it, and it had so many write-ins, they had to put it on the ballot.
Okay, you know what? That alone is pretty telling. Because prior to starting this podcast, I found like a trailer for a Galaxy Quest documentary.
Oh,
that was like, I looked back at like, hey, the impact and legacy of Galaxy Quest.
Oh, that thing. Yeah, you were showing me.
right. And so, like, in that trailer, we see all these people like praising Galaxy Quest, like all these high profile people. And I'm like, wait, was it really that like big a deal? I guess it kind of was to some of the Trek fandom. If you're a Trek fan and Galaxy Quest left a huge impact on you, like, tell us. I would love to know. Because I honestly just had no clue.
I think that's primarily who it had a big impact on. Because when it came out, it kind of flopped. It didn't do very well, even though it came out on December 25th, which is like a pretty stellar day for movies to come out. Part of that's... Yeah, on Christmas. Yeah, but part of that.
I would like to know. I would love to know like what the general like temperature of the Star Trek like fandom in general was like in the year 1999. Like what shows were airing at the time?
Well, I think at that point, Star Trek was well into Voyager, which means that it was definitely in like the public mind a lot still. And I think
among Trek fans, how was Voyager received? Were people thinking like, boy, do I wish TNG were still around?
Well, the thing is, Voyager, okay, first of all, there was a general decline in quality as Star Trek went on when it came back. Okay. So it started off with TNG, and, TNG was bad at the beginning, but it got much better, right? Then DS9 happened, and I think in the public eye, it was considered a weaker show. I personally think DS9 is actually the strongest of that era of Star Treks. But... that's not necessarily what's always publicly thought, to the point where like when they decided to restore Star Trek, they restored the original series and TNG, but they didn't restore DS9, right? Like they kind of left it alone, even though it's actually maybe easier to restore DS9 because a lot of it was also CG. So you could have gone back and literally found the files.
Did DS9 happen to be like shot on tape or something?
No, all of these shows were shot on film. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so they just chose not to. And then Voyager was like a step down even further to most people. And I think the main problem with Voyager is that it took a lot of what like Star Trek, like because DS9 became very serial. So it became more like almost like a modern, not necessarily like a prestige show, but it was a serialized show. It wasn't episodic, Sure. It had some episodic episodes, but there was like an ongoing story. Whereas Voyager went back to Monster of the Week. Sort of.
Okay, the reason why I asked that question is because depending on what Star Trek fans thought of their current Star Trek offerings at the time in '99, Galaxy Quest might have come as like a breath of fresh air, or it might even be like, hey, here's because it seems to be most closely modeled after like TOS and TNG or a combination of the two.
Yeah, mostly TOS and a slight combination of with TNG because obviously they have their Wesley equivalent.
Right.
That's basically. But it seems to take most of its cues from the original series.
Yeah, definitely it's more of a Kirk and his crew sort of analog than anything else.
Yeah. I mean, at the time, Star Trek TNG movies were coming out, right? So they had Star Trek First Contact, they had Star Trek Insurrection, and then this movie came out. So this must have been a breath of fresh air as a good movie while we were...
Look.
Oh, hi, Ricardo.
I wanted to chime in and say this. Do you think they're gonna go the way of like the Fast and the Furious movies, where they're just gonna call it like Trek 9, like T9, Like they already hired the Fast and the Furious director, Justin Lin.
That's true. They did.
Yeah,
So,
I think the problem is that the movies themselves aren't considered lucrative enough, whereas the shows, even though they're not the best rated, the modern shows are they're I think essentially driving Paramount Plus on their own. Like they're actually kind of helping them create their own streaming service.
I don't think I hear about any other Paramount Plus originals. Or
it's a lot of Star
major
Trek
franchises or series that are exclusive to that platform.
Or at least I haven't heard any like advertisements for anything else really on Paramount Plus, other than like
Halo.
Star Trek and some kids shows. Basically, that's all I can think of.
Okay,
yeah, but it's Galaxy Quest. It's a movie that, as we said, came out December 25th of 1999, the same year The Matrix came out, and I think that doesn't really affect it too much because The Matrix came out in March, but still,
I had that on my list,
Well, Dan, as you requested before the podcast began, I'm going to ask you to activate the Omega 13, and let's go 13 seconds back. Actually, if it's years, it's perfect.
No, you need 23.
23. Oh, damn.
You're way older than you think. You're way older than you think. I had that thought too. Don't worry. I was there. I'm just past it already.
You already fixed it.
I'm here to shepherd you through. Don't worry. We are old.
Let's go, Dan. Take us. Take us away.
Okay, so first off, in the year 1999 happened to be a really good year for video games, man. We had the release of Smash Brothers, Silent Hill, Pokemon Snap, FF8, Third Strike, Roller Coaster Tycoon, the release of the Dreamcast in September, Soul Calibur, tons more. And just 2 days before the release of Galaxy Quest, we had Gran Turismo 2, which was immediately in my household and being played by both of my brothers.
That was during the era where people really, really wanted to play very realistic driving sims.
Oh, I mean, that's still happening, dude. The driving sims never went away.
But it was almost like mainstream. People mainstream wanted to do it.
That's true.
Not really anymore. Yeah.
Because they still like had a foot in like they were trying to service both sides in that era by having like there's an arcade mode in this like game. Later Gran Turismos just did away with it. They stopped trying. Mm-hmm. Anyway, also just as a quick like one song from '99, Cher's "Believe" came out in October.
Oh.
And like we said, The Matrix was released in March. On May 25th, 35.5 million viewers banded together to watch the series finale of Home Improvement. It was immediately followed by a backstage special where they looked back at the show's 8-year run and they finally showed Wilson's whole goddamn face, which is an extremely quaint notion now, because if the internet had existed in its current form, like back then, there's no way that intrigue would have lasted for 8 years. Everyone would have known what he looked like.
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's it. That's hilarious.
I always thought that was such an interesting character thing. Like, I don't know.
Wilson was probably the best character in the show.
He's the most wholesome part of Home Improvement.
Gosh, Home Improvement. I remember that show. Damn, Home Improvement.
He was the dude.
Like retrospectively, I think there were only really 2 parts of Home Improvement I enjoyed. Whenever Wilson was there, and whenever they had like the man version of Pam his Anderson room.
Was there?
Yeah, whenever they had like a big, huge like set that they built with like mechanical moving parts and stuff. Like those were like actual like.
Yeah, they would spend like half the episode just showing off the set they built.
Yeah, like the man's kitchen with the fridge that had a chef inside of it that only gave you meat and potatoes.
Yeah, it was sick.
Yeah, it was fun stuff.
Yeah.
November, Toy Story 2 was released, which helped Tim Allen's image as an intrepid spaceman. And a couple of weeks before the release of the actual movie, the RIAA had just filed its first lawsuit against Napster for copyright infringement. It was around that time, 99. And that's your little snapshot of 1999 for y'all.
That's a good year for Tim Allen.
He was coming out on he was right off the end of his like main series. He had Toy Story movies coming.
Yeah, and Home Improvement was still heavily syndicated, so making a ton of money off of it. And
everything was coming up Allen.
Yeah, and then he became a crazy motherfucker.
He didn't become one.
He was always like that.
Yeah, he was always like that. That's true. He just decided to be more open about it, I guess.
Apparently he like hassled Sigourney Weaver on the set of Galaxy Quest to sign a piece of the Nostromo?
Nostradamus?
Like whatever the ship was from Alien.
Nostromo.
That's right.
Oh,
sorry.
yeah.
So he had a piece of that from like the Alien set that he had somehow procured.
What?
And after much badgering, Sigourney Weaver signed it for him and said, "Tim, like stolen by Tim Allen, loves Sigourney Weaver."
So did he actually steal it?
That's what Sigourney like accused him of by citing it. And according to Sigourney, Tim Allen was not happy with the signature.
Oh, well, that's fine.
Yeah, he's probably like, that's pretty funny.
Yeah. I mean, wait, no, what? No. Because Alien is a Fox movie, right?
Yes.
So it wouldn't be like he's in the ABC lots and then he finds fucking random pieces of.
Well, and apparently Tim is also like, I don't know if this is just like a coincidence, but even during the trailer for that Galaxy Quest documentary I mentioned earlier, he showed off like a blaster gun from the movie, and he says, "I'm gonna have to give this back now because I stole this."
Yeah. So he has a history of just stealing things.
Yes.
It's so weird. Like it's very interesting that there's a documentary after the fact, because actually the movie itself had very little promotion, but the only promotion they gave it was like a fake behind the scenes mockumentary of the creation of the in-world Galaxy Quest show.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was like a whole featurette that was just like the actors from Galaxy Quest pretending they're actors in the in-universe Galaxy Quest show and talking about it.
Where would you have caught this advertisement? Did they
I don't know.
Put it on TV?
I feel like it's one of those things that they just showed on like ABC, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
Well, probably not ABC because this is a DreamWorks thing, and Katzenberg fucking hates Disney at this point, so he probably wouldn't have let it be shown there. In fact, I have no idea where this showed, but apparently that exists, where there's this like mockumentary.
Maybe it was like those like VHS tapes that Nintendo would send out. I had one that was all about Star Fox 64 and the Rumble Pack.
Oh.
I would watch it over and over again for some reason.
Oh, you wanted to experience the Rumble for yourself.
Yeah, man. I was so intrigued by the Rumble Pack.
Anyway, that was our trip around the sun. And you know what? Let's still do sponsors this week, because fuck it. Why not? Our first sponsor, it's ExpressVPN, like always. Listen, let's do this quickly. If you like having a good high-quality VPN that, one, is very secure. Actually, just very recently, ExpressVPN passed a new independent audit by the company F-Secure for their Windows app. And they're actually committing to do more privacy and security audits with all of their apps through other third parties. And you can just Google that. It's called F-Secure. They do security audits for all sorts of things, including VPNs. And they passed with flying colors because ExpressVPN's cool like that. And it's actually not that common for lots of VPNs to actually submit themselves to third-party audits that often, because it's going to expose a lot of stuff. Yeah, they chose to do it, and that's because they're actually telling the truth when they say that they're a very secure VPN. They have no activity logs or connection logs. They have really great service.
Just Yule logs. They have Yule logs during Christmas.
Only Yule logs. And
then they burn those immediately.
Yes. Gotta burn those logs.
Yeah, and they if you want locations, they have 160 locations spanning 94 countries. There's so many different places where you can log into. They actually work with Netflix and other streaming services, and they're very fast. So if you want a VPN of that quality, you can head on over to expressvpn.com/newbie Star Trek, and if you sign up for 12 months using that link, you'll get an extra 3 months for free, which means the whole deal is 49% off. It's a pretty dang good deal. So that's expressvpn.com/newbie Star Trek. Cool. So this is normally when I would summon Denise Crosby and ask her to ask Ricardo.
And we couldn't afford Sigourney Weaver.
We shortly before we began recording the podcast, we looked on Cameo, and none of the actors for Galaxy Quest are up on there.
Yeah, not that we were seriously considering getting a cameo done. That would have delayed the podcast severely.
Yeah.
Wait, actually, this is probably a question worth asking at this point. Who here had actually seen the movie before?
I had never seen it before. This is my first time.
I've seen it a million times.
I've seen it a bunch of times too.
I think this might be my second viewing ever.
Wait, we're not going to do it like we usually do the podcast, where it's like almost like scene for scene. We're gonna just kind of
Yeah, we should just talk about it.
Yeah, it would
overall
probably take a
discuss it,
while
right?
to get through a scene for scene.
Yeah, we don't have to do it scene by scene. I think
Yeah.
we could just like generally describe what happens in the plot.
I mean, we could pull up a more general synopsis if we
Yeah,
wanted
we can
Yeah.
read a synopsis and then we can just talk about maybe points.
to. Like, because I forgot everything about what happened in the movie, so I need someone to remind me, please.
I'll start. Someone said this. What did you say right now, Sarah? Something about point.
No, I said we can read a synopsis or something and then talk about different points in the movie.
Points. That's interesting. You said points. Because this reminds me of Point Break.
In what
Hear
way?
me out. Hear me
How
out.
so?
Point Break it goes on to become Fast and the Furious, if you think about it. And this movie really came from Three Amigos, if you really think about it. So there's a
I guess
correlation
so.
there, you know?
Yeah, it is very much that movie again.
Yeah. It's basically Three Amigos, but in space. But I'm here for it. I love Three Amigos, and I love this movie. I think, but we do have to say that it's very much the same movie. Just like Fast and Furious 1 is
Heck,
Point
even
Break.
it's like
it's
a Bug's
even kind of
Life.
like Cars
Yeah.
2 and A Bug's Life. Yeah, there's a lot of movies where it's like
Pixar just did the same plot twice. But yeah, that's essentially.
Yeah.
They wanted to do a Star Trek spoof, but couldn't use Star Trek.
Yeah.
So they decided to make up their own show.
Though I will say this about this, I don't know what the format of this is going to be. Marvin, you're going to have a hard time editing this, but because it's going to be all over the place. But
No, I'm just going to leave it all in order. Yeah.
I came while I was watching this. I was like, oh, that would have been crazy if this would have been like a sanctioned like sequel to the Star Trek movies. You know what I mean? With like
That's what I'm always hoping
Picard.
Star Trek will one day do. Is that they'll be like willing to make something that's a bit meta.
that's kind of like turning Star Trek into like JCVD.
which JCVD is one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen. I literally cried in movie theaters, and then
It's a great
everybody I've shown
movie.
it to, I've shown it to some pretty like, how would I describe these people without insulting them?
Artsy fartsy people.
Pretentious actors who are like very anti, like younger pretentious actors who are like anti Van Damme. And I've been
Okay.
like, look, watch this 10 minutes. If you don't like it, we could turn it off. And then 10 minutes go by and they're like, oh, this is interesting. And then like halfway through it, they're like, oh, I didn't know this guy could act. It's like, yeah, dude, this guy's a beautiful man from Brussels.
The thing is, I honestly don't think there are like bad actors, like quote unquote. I think any actor can be great when put into the right role with the right direction. Because, like, for example, you look at like John Waters movies,
Yes.
and they're all terrible actors who aren't actors. He just grabs people off the street or people he knows, and puts them in these roles. But he's put them in roles that like they make sense to be in and are great. Like same for like Gummo. Gummo used a bunch of like the kid actor is just some kid he knew.
Yeah.
And it's like, it just depends on how you decide to utilize. I legitimately think even Tommy Wiseau, if he wasn't directing himself and was directed by someone else and put in the right role, could be great.
Marvin.
Could be really
If
funny
he had a
or really
suitably
good.
manipulative director that
Yeah.
only farmed out the most specific pieces of Tommy Wiseau's performance,
Yeah.
then you could salvage a decent performance out of him.
Well, also, if there's a performance that called for that, like let's say
The Room.
Yeah.
The fuck are you talking about, dude? That's
Like,
that's the role of
what
his
if-
life.
Like, what if he played Sam Rockwell's character in Galaxy Quest? He's the guy like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. He could work
be
there.
that.
He could work there, and
Yeah.
it'd be really
I
funny.
mean, okay,
probably
Tommy
work.
Wiseau is a very unfair choice for this hypothetical exercise because everyone just wants him to be anything. He doesn't have to be just that character. You could say Tommy Wiseau could be X, Y, Z, and I was like, yeah, I'll watch that because it's Tommy.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I think it would be appropriate for him to play like a character like Sam Rockwell's character, who is like kind of like not great at what he does, but he's
I don't
like hanging
think Tommy
on.
is the type of guy who should be afraid to die.
Yeah.
He might. I can see him wincing and being pathetic.
No.
and be like, "Oh my god, I don't want to die." We had to simplify his lines a lot because he wouldn't be able to say most of them the way Sam Rockwell can.
A lot of laughing.
Yeah,
and convert about half of it into cheap.
Well, speaking of Tommy Wiseau, this movie has quite the cast. First of all, it's directed by Dean Parasol. Yeah, I don't know how to say his last name, but Dean hasn't had that long a career. His primary thing he was known for is he directed a lot of episodes of Monk, and he directed the newest Bill and Ted movie, Bill and Ted Face the Music. But that's primarily the things he's known.
Oh, he also directed Fun with Dick and Jane, which is the only other movie of his that I've seen.
I've never seen Fun with Dick and Jane, so
it's not really that good.
I don't hate it.
Yeah, I don't hate it. It's just like it's pretty forgettable. It has a couple of really good bits in it because it's Jim Carrey, doing a funny thing. But
notably, he was also married to Sally Mank, Tarantino's editor, who she was the Marsha Lucas to his George Lucas. So that's essentially kind of how that went. But yeah, and then the actual cast itself, Tim Allen.
It's quite a weird cast.
Yeah, it's it's kind of like okay, so you understand why they cast Tim Allen. You kind of want a jerk.
Yeah, you kind of want a jerk. You kind of want like Tim had a reputation because of Home Improvement and also to an extent because of like Toy Story that he is like a little bullheaded and thick.
Yeah. And if you want someone to play the equivalent of a William Shatner type, that's actually it's only gotten better. That choice has gotten only better with age.
That's kind of true. Yeah,
it's only more appropriate over time. Sigourney Weaver primarily because of her sci-fi cred, Alien, and then Alan Rickman.
Although Sigourney Weaver is a weird choice because like her claim to that sci-fi cred is such a different role than what she's like cast as here.
Yeah,
because she's like a marginalized cast member otherwise. Like in this movie,
she's not the badass. She is like because she actually never. I think she's the only character who doesn't have a character arc.
Yeah, she like throughout the movie, I felt kind of bad for Sigourney because like they really didn't write much for her. Like she's a pretty underutilized thing. She's just like a love interest for Mrs. Nesbit.
Yeah, and he doesn't like get to do a cool thing at the end, other than maybe
not really
accompany Tim Allen through when they're trying to find the thing to turn off.
Considering how much of a punchline that final like destruction of Saris was, it could have just been her who blasts him to oblivion.
Yeah, that's true. That could be
like
something.
They could have given her that shot, to like, just like, hey, remember when she was in Aliens
and she killed an alien?
Yeah, she did it again.
Yeah, and then you have Alan Rickman, which is a very interesting choice because he's probably one of the three show stealers in the movie, I think. Because no matter what movie Alan Rickman is, you kind of like watch Alan Rickman quite a bit.
He elevates the movies he's a part of.
Yeah, because he's just a really fantastic actor. And then you also have Tony Shalhoub, who I only realized this as the movie was ending when I was watching it with Sarah. His character's name is Fred Kwan, and he plays
No. The best part. Okay, did you not notice how when the Thermians like meet the rest of the crew like on their ship like for the first time, and they're all like in awe at like finally meeting their heroes? They turn to Tony, and they say Tech Sergeant Chen.
Yeah,
and then he noticeably squints at them. He fucking squinted at them.
I did not.
You need to find that moment and rewatch that when you get a chance.
Oh, no.
It's amazing.
Oh no!
Awful.
Wait, is he squinting in that fake opening sequence when he shows up? Like,
I think he is actually.
He is. Oh no!
Yep. Okay, so I think they were. I ended up reading up a little bit about this, and part of the motivation behind this particular dynamic is because they tried to be inspired by Bill Carradine or David Carradine.
David Carradine, yeah.
David Carradine in Kung Fu, because he was like not an Asian guy, but he was playing one.
But there's nothing to do with Star Trek.
I know.
They had an
weird.
actual Asian man in Star Trek.
And and here's another aspect to Tony Shalhoub's character. Apparently, they kind of thought of him as a stoner, which is why he's always trying to like munch on things and drink stuff.
Yeah, I think you get that for sure in the movie. Yeah, I think you get that.
I didn't really pick up on that when I was watching
Tony Shalhoub?
Yeah.
In
the movie, he's
like
high the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
just took it as like a weird aloofness that I couldn't identify. Like I wasn't pegging it as being high.
I just keep thinking of him and Monk, and like that's who his character is in Mist.
I'm having hung out with a lot of potheads. A lot of them that are like, I used to work with 2 jobs ago, and he was very relaxed. That's how it is. It's not like he's not people that do it every day, especially in the morning. They're not mesmerized by a lot of things because they're high all the time. So it's like,
it's just their status quo.
Yeah.
I mean, Sarah and I have a friend who he is high 24/7, and we didn't know until towards the end of our time going to school with him that he's like, I've always been high.
Isn't that most people, especially in California? I mean, that's just most people, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not me or you.
Or everybody we know.
Mm.
Tim Allen.
No one at all.
Known pothead dude. And cocaine.
Really?
Cocaine for sure. Yeah. There's lots of stories of him just snorting. He was snorting on the set of Home Improvement.
Wow. What the fuck, Tim Allen?
Yeah, around the children.
Not around the children, Tim.
I think the single character, actor that carried this movie.
Wait, Sarah, why do you think you never saw Wilson's face, dude? Because he was all covered in white powder.
Oh my god. Wow.
They finally cleaned it off after 8 years. For one shot at the very end.
He's like, all right. He's like, so what were you saying, Sarah? I cut you off.
I think the single actor that carried this movie was the leader of the Thermians, whatever that guy's name is.
Mathazar, played by like a general working actor named Enrico Colantoni. Yeah. He steals the whole movie, I think.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He's the only guy. He's very weird. It's a very strange character.
Yeah, I always remember the line.
Don't know.
You are
why is he?
Last hope.
Yeah, that's the trailer line.
It's in every commercial. In every commercial was that shot of Tim in like the transporter goo. Flying toward the camera. That was always in every commercial.
Boy, that CG did not age well.
Also, they're so cute. They're like children, and they turn into horrible gremlins. Like that was always part of it. And also another part that was in every single commercial was it doesn't have any. Wait, what? Crap. Weak spots.
What?
Like it's when they're telling Tim like go for the weak parts of the rock.
Oh, it doesn't have any weak points.
It doesn't have any. Yeah, that's right. It's like where's the weak point in the rock
monster that I feel like Breath of the Wild stole from? It looks just like that monster.
Yeah,
and it's a monster that's
a Talos.
Yeah, it's a Talos, and Taloses have never shown up in Zelda games before. I think.
Enrico, the guy who plays the leader of the termites. He's an amazing actor, and he's like consistently really, really fucking good. He was in Just Shoot Me. I don't know if you guys watched that show. He was in a role that he had a small part, but I remember him very distinctly. There was a James Dean movie, like TNT movie, and he played Eli Kazan, and he was very reserved, and he was really good in it. And then he did a role in the show that it was basically The Dark Knight. It was Jonathan Nolan's show. It was called Person of Interest.
Oh yeah.
And he played a gangster, and he was really, really threatening. And I was like, that's crazy because he could play like a really nice guy, and like he could play a vicious killer, and he's got a lot of
weird
range.
Alien.
Yeah. He's
a great actor.
So weird. Yeah. No,
yes.
He just made me laugh. He was a good comedic relief, and I mean the whole movie is comedy. But like,
I love Sam Rockwell in this so much.
Sam Rockwell is also really great in this movie.
Yeah,
and also this is the only movie I can tolerate Justin Long. Actually,
yeah, I get behind that. I like Sam Rockwell's
ironic because like he's acting his most insufferably nerdy.
Yeah, but you're like that's to me it's like okay that works. This is fine.
There was you could tell there's a lot of Sam Rockwell like improvisation because like it's totally him. It's totally like bits he does before
when he's freaking out on the shuttlecraft.
It's like random screaming.
Yeah,
and like when he's like, "Look around you. Can you form a rudimentary lathe?"
Oh yeah, lathe. Yeah.
And then there's a scene in the beginning where like they're like, "Oh, pull like." Stall for time because they haven't shown up for the convention, and like they're cutting between like them getting impatient in the audience and then them backstage getting ready. And if you listen very carefully to Sam Rockwell, he's improvising all that stuff. Like he's making up stuff like and then these guys build a camaraderie just like the show, but in real life. And like they cut back to him, and you're like, this guy's improvising this, and it's amazing. And so he's great. Missy Pyle's in this. There's so many people that you recognize.
Rainn Wilson is a random Thermian.
Yeah.
It's actually Rainn Wilson's first film.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it was also Justin Long's for the record.
Oh, it's his first film too. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, it's funny. Man. I wonder how. So the writer of this, there was a show created by the guy that did Ed. Not Ed. Was the one with Jason Lee? What was it called?
Oh, My Name is Earl.
Yeah, the creator of that made a show that he did right after that, like Raising Hope, I think it's called. And
I think you're right. Yeah,
a lot of the cast of that show is in this movie. Like Greg Binkley, who you recognize as a character actor. He's one of the fans in the convention.
Okay.
And then the guy who's taking a piss and talking shit about Tim Allen, Todd.
Oh yeah.
Giberheim, he's also in the show. There's a lot of people in this movie that are in this show.
There's just so many actors from so many different backgrounds in this movie.
Yeah.
It
Very
was like
eclectic
every
cast.
time, it was like I don't know, what do you call like an ensemble cast? I don't know, but like I don't know. It was just weird to see be like, oh, there's this guy and this random person and
then originally Harold Ramis was actually hired to direct a movie at first, but then he left because originally Harold Ramis wanted Alec Baldwin to play
Alec Baldwin, really?
The William Shatner role. Alec Baldwin turned it down, and they started looking for a bunch of other actors to play, and they got Tim Allen. And apparently Harold Ramis hates Tim Allen. So
wow. I mean, I prefer Tim Allen to Alec Baldwin. I mean, I feel like I don't really like. I thought it was an odd when I saw Tim Allen in this role. I was just like, really, Tim Allen, the Home Improvement guy? I was just like, this is so weird to be like, the William Shatner or like Picard-esque. I was looking for something a little bit more. I don't know. I was like, oh, that's an interesting casting choice. But definitely, I prefer Tim Allen over like Alec Baldwin or somebody. I hate Alec Baldwin. I don't like him at all. I've never liked him. I don't know why.
Well, I think they're both pretty not that likable as people.
Like Alec Baldwin, even before recent events, is always kind of.
Well, Alec Baldwin, he had an anger issue. Has an anger issue.
He just seems
gotten
like
into lots of fights and beating people up.
He seems like an entitled jerk, and I just was never able to shake that feeling about him.
Yeah.
I don't know. And now he's just solidified that fact. So yeah.
Well, since this is not quite the same episode as a regular Newbie. This is not a Newbie Star Trek at all. It's not even Newbie Galaxy Quest. I think most of us had seen it already at some point.
Well, we have one Newbie, right?
Sarah? Have you seen it? You hadn't seen it, Sarah?
I never seen it before. This is my first time. I never even heard about it. I was not even aware of this movie.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I described it to you. Right. Yeah.
That's partly why I asked that question.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I obviously was not. I was not part of this sphere of movies at this time. And you said it came out in 1999?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was 9 years old, so it totally missed me. It missed
It missed a lot of people. I think it only got popular when Star Trek fans started really latching onto it.
Which, I noticed it is kind of like a lot of the references are to like not TNG stuff.
It's a lot of original series references.
Yeah.
And actually the director of the movie, he had said that like we're actually like a big part of the movie is just to make a Star Trek episode. And that's kind of what they did, because like they even have like a mission and they have an away mission and then they have a resolution. It just happens to involve a crew who is not really a spaceship crew.
Yeah, but then it's also like weird that they have a captain that's not really, well, Tim Allen is like the captain. He's not really good at this until like the very last minute, I guess. He kind of like pulls it together.
No, kind of. Well, like in the scene where he goes for the rock, like he was willing to let his team go and then stay behind.
That's true.
Like I feel it's kind of like
it's
the whole call to action bullshit. Like where you're like.
Exactly.
He had it all along, and we just had to unlock it.
He's not Picard, though. You know what I mean? Like I'm thinking of Picard. That's
he's
totally
a Kirk.
different.
Yeah, he's a Kirk. He's rough and tumble. Because that's always the primary difference between Picard.
See, I'm not familiar with Kirk.
Exactly. Yeah, Kirk is.
You don't know Kirk Hammett from Metallica?
That Kirk I do know.
Yeah, Picard is the exact opposite of James T. Kirk. Not the exact opposite, but like they have a lot of opposites. Like whereas Picard's first solution is probably to like, let's say, let's all sit down and talk. Kirk will probably start that way, but he's willing to throw hands.
But I feel safe with Picard. Like I feel like he's level.
Yeah.
He's going to make the right decision. We're going to talk it through. He's going to think about everybody's feelings about it. We're going to make a very measured. He's experienced. I feel safe with him at the head.
Wesley's dad, and then he's like, "All rules are off. I'm going to kill this man and sleep."
Yeah.
We're going to risk the entire ship
if I have to.
And was that like also?
I'll kill him as many times as it takes.
Speaking of Wesley, was having a literal child in that role here supposed to be like Wesley? Like they literally had like
it's literally a Wesley reference.
It's a child.
It's
like a 9-year-old
or like a
someone who's very inexperienced. Somehow.
It could also kind of be a Gary Coleman reference.
Sort of, yeah.
Maybe.
A young black child actor who never really got another role, sort of thing.
Only that, he not that he has Gary Coleman's condition or anything, but
I just feel like that's the one TNG thing they kind of threw in, and everything else is very much like.
But I'm wondering if that's what that's supposed to be, because like it's so weird to have this team of people, and then there's this child.
And they don't, and they explain it even less so in the movie. Why it's a child.
They don't explain it at all. It's an actual child, and it's like, why would that ever be okay?
Young Laredo
in any way, shape, or form to have a child on a team like this?
Young Laredo, how you've grown.
Yeah.
I guess we should say to Laredo for somehow having an adult-size uniform, even though he probably never was given one by the show.
He had to keep getting one because he keeps going to conventions, so they're gonna. He has to keep getting them made.
That was kind of like a sad. That was kind of like a sad reality. Like these actors, but like that was also a thing. Like they portrayed them as kind of like washed up a little bit in this, and I don't think anyone associated with Star Trek is. I don't think it by any means like washed up like this.
I don't think they're like washed. Like the William Shatner comparison really doesn't work, just because like it's a spoof. That's why they kind of really emphasize how pathetic it is. But like William Shatner had a long career after Star Trek. Like
William Shatner is not
really successful.
Up.
Apparently, the impetus to writing this, like by the original writer, like he was like in some museum or something, or he was watching like some sci-fi documentary narrated by Leonard Nimoy, and he was struck by this like realization, like, oh, this is all he can do. This is all Leonard Nimoy is allowed to do because of
Leonard Nimoy in particular really was pigeonholed. Yeah, like he couldn't really do much else outside of that.
Right. And so like with that as a springboard, I think he kind of went into like, well, what if the cast of Star Trek never got out from under Star Trek?
I guess.
Yeah.
But can that be possible with how popular Star Trek is?
Well, so here's the thing. For TNG, I'd argue a lot of TNG cast went on to have fairly successful career. I think even Denise Crosby, who left early, she had like a pretty decent film career afterward. It's not the worst. I think the main person who didn't really come out of TNG with a lot going on is maybe Michael Dorn, the guy who plays Worf. But even though, like, let's say the Marina Sirtis, who plays Deanna Troi, she didn't really do much after TNG. She still considered TNG to be such an upgrade for what she was doing that she was like, "Oh, this is like the best thing I've ever done in my career." And move, same for Jonathan Frakes.
A bunch of them just hopped onto gargoyles.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, a surprising, primarily because Greg Weisman's such a Star Trek nerd that he was like, "Can I just hire them?" And then they were like, "Yeah, sure." So he just hired a lot of them as
actually, that's
actors.
disingenuous. By '99, they probably weren't.
Yeah.
I don't remember when Gargoyles got canceled.
Yeah, but in the original series actors, the only one who kind of came out of Star Trek doing other things was William Shatner. And the problem is, when Star Trek, the original series first came out, it didn't do well. It only did better in syndication way after the fact. So the main actors and the main crew didn't really get to reap a lot of the rewards right away. And in fact, a lot of them had pretty, like, they didn't really do much afterward. Like they were kind of screwed into doing like small parts in like really shitty B movies, or they just stopped acting, or, so a lot of them probably didn't do what happened in the movie though, because this is during the rise of bigger conventions. Even by the time this movie came out, conventions weren't really this big as they showed in the movie. They were like much smaller things that people literally just show up for like a day at like a convention center room, and they just have like a few tables and stuff. This movie makes it look more like a Comic-Con.
The Comic-Con thing, even how it is now, it's only been like probably less than 10 years that it's been.
Yeah.
I'd say like 2009 or 2010, like after Iron Man came out. That's
Iron
when
Man's really kicked it all off. Yeah, exactly.
Before that, you could literally go to Comic-Con and go to a bar afterwards, and you would bump into people.
You would find everyone. You'd find everybody. There wouldn't be security at Comic-Con.
No.
It would just be like people show up.
Yeah.
And like you could probably, especially earlier Comic-Cons, kind of just like get a ticket the day of and go in. Now it's like, we have to have a fucking lottery to figure out who's gonna get a ticket.
Yeah, like 2008 was the first year that Marvin and I attended San Diego Comic-Con. It was only for one day, but we were able to pack in a lot of crap off of one day.
We did a lot that day.
It wasn't big yet. We were able to just walk into things and line up for very short wait for stuff, and like it's so different now.
Yeah. And then a year afterward, we decided to go again, but instead of buying a ticket, we decided to volunteer. And that was
we had to take a year off.
We took a year off. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. But 2010, we realized that it exploded because we would do our volunteer shift for 3 hours.
Yeah,
and
I
then
remember
we
in
try
2009.
To do stuff. Yeah.
In 2009, I was kicking myself because it was like there was a big story that Kevin Conroy comes out of hiding to finally attend a Comic-Con after however many years. I'm like, what?
Oh, yeah.
God damn it, I miss Batman.
But then he shows up most Comic-Cons.
But then he starts showing up at every single Comic-Con. So it's like, okay, never mind.
Yeah. So,
and then I denied him the use of a bathroom by accident.
Oh, you should tell that story.
What?
Okay, this isn't related to Galaxy Quest at all. But one time I was like, I was waiting for this was the year I had to go to Comic-Con alone, I think. So I think 2015.
God.
So we were about to. I was waiting for the premiere of the latest DC animated DTV like video, film thing, and before it came on, I realized I really needed to like use the restroom. I needed to go, like absolutely. It was an emergency. So I was sitting in there waiting in line, and then I'm about to I think I'm the person who's like waiting for the next open stall. Like there's no one ahead of me except for the stalls. Then I hear someone behind me. He says, "Excuse me, are you waiting for a stall?" I say, "Yeah." And then I look around behind me. I was like, "Oh shit, it's Kevin Conroy." But that doesn't change the fact that I need to take a shit real bad, man.
People who don't know.
I'm sorry, but I am. And then like this was like minutes before he had to like go somewhere, so he just gave up and left the bathroom
to be on the panel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So the whole
Dan, how could you?
Kevin Conroy is the voice of Batman in the animated series, by the way, or in many animated things and video
You were like,
games.
you know what?
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. I have to take a shit right now. So
you're all back the fuck up.
Hey man, everybody shits.
I don't care who the fuck you are.
That day it was my turn.
Everybody shits.
For all I know, I could have. Yeah, I might have made Kevin Conroy shit his pants that night. I don't know.
Or he went on stage and was just
Yes.
like, God, I really need to fucking pee and I can't think of anything else but peeing. And this guy would not let me go.
So yeah, eventually I made good on my missing of Kevin Conroy. And instead of getting an autograph or anything like that, I just denied him his shits.
Oh no.
Wonderful
damn,
story.
that's
I love
so
it.
awful.
There's also that time when we were on the escalator and we just glanced behind us and we're like, oh shit, you're Eric Estrada. And he was like, hey
guys, got your costumes?
And I was like, no, we don't.
Obviously not. We're not dressed up at all. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, and we were just
You guys
like,
just
oh,
look
it's
naturally
cool.
goofy.
You're
You
there.
look naturally goofy. That's why.
I once went to the LA Auto Show,
Mhm.
and this was the last year they made the Trans Am, and I'm a big fan of the car.
Mhm.
And I was sitting by the car, and I got in it, and then I went with. I had gone. No one would go with me. And I hate going to things alone. And my friend's girlfriend at the time was like, "I'll go with you. It's fine." And then so she went with me, and she was really nice. She kind of just like was basically my chaperone.
Oh my god.
Just so I you know, like if you go alone, there's no one to like be sassy with, you know what I mean? So it's like, so she went, and she was like, all right, and then so I was like, you know what, this is the only car I want. I had one of those. I had a camera at the time, and this is before cell phone cameras were really good. You still have the shitty cameras on the phones.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what, there's only one car I want a picture with because they're gonna discontinue it, and it's a Trans Am. So I go to sit in it, and I'm kind of looking inside and stuff, and then I hear someone go, "She's a beauty, isn't she?" And I look up, and it's Michael. It's David Hasselhoff.
Oh,
yeah. And I'm like, what?
Damn,
Dude?
were you like, you're a beauty?
Yeah, and I was like, she is. And then he's like, yeah, mind if I get in? And I was like, yeah, go ahead. And then I
You
waited.
should have been like, no.
Yeah, no, you wait your turn. I'm waiting for the stall.
No, Mr.
You wait your
Hasselhoff, you wait your turn.
You wait your fucking
You
turn.
better
I'm
shit your
sitting in
pants
it.
right now, David Hasselhoff.
and then I was like, do you mind taking a picture? And he's like, it was during the week, so it wasn't packed. And he's like, yeah, real quick before anybody sees. And he took a picture. And then
Wait, take a picture with him or take your picture of you in the car?
That'd have been cooler if I would have told him, take a picture of me in the car. And I was like, and then he took a picture, and then I had the film because it was like the last like film canister that I had, and I just had it laying around, and I just found it the other day. I got it good developed actually.
What?
Oh,
So you have a picture?
You haven't even gotten it developed yet? Oh man, dude.
Oh dang.
You should get that done. Dang.
Wow. So wait, it was a picture with David Hasselhoff?
Yeah.
Wow, that's so funny.
Yeah.
The Hoff
The
for
Knight
himself.
Rider.
Yeah.
Wow, you need to develop.
Actually,
this
he would have
film.
been a good actor to play this role.
No, I don't think of him as a jerk. That's the thing.
David Hasselhoff?
I think of him as he seems like a nice person. So I don't think I would
Well, why
see
does
him
this
as
person? Why does this character need to be a jerk?
because that's
my
kind of like
argument.
Because that's Kirk.
that's William Shatner. He's kind of full of himself. You need that energy
Wow,
of like
I prefer
kind of
Picard.
self-centered.
Then I prefer Picard.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah,
I'm not down. Actually, William Shatner.
You piece of shit,
You
William
did it.
Shatner.
You finally did it.
William Shatner is on my shit list for going to space. So
He's on your shat list.
He's on my chat list.
We should
once
say
he's shitted on, then he's on the shat list.
we should say that
William Shatner.
this movie probably
Damn it.
inspired the Seth MacFarlane show, right? Like what's it called?
Oh, the Orville?
The Orville?
Orville.
I think the Seth MacFarlane show was inspired by the fact that Seth MacFarlane tried to be involved in Star Trek so much and was denied so many times that he decided to just make his own Star Trek show with Blackjack
And then he ended up
hookers.
attracting like TNG writers and crew.
Yeah, because they realized he shows up in Enterprise. Seth MacFarlane is
He's Fartland?
Yeah. Seth MacFarlane is
William Shatner's Seth MacFarlane.
He was
modifying all the names today.
I think it was in Enterprise. He showed up as a guest star. Right? He's not like labeled because he wasn't like a big star then, I think. But
right.
I think he just showed up because he wanted to, because he loves Star Trek so much. But all right, I think I just realized we haven't actually described the plot of the movie. So let me just do that. Let me just do that really quick.
Tell us, Marvin. Tell us what happens in this movie. Tell us what happens in this movie.
Okay, just very.
Wait. Hold on. Wait, let me try it again. Hold on.
Okay.
Marvin, tell us what happens in this movie.
Wow, it's like Sigourney Weaver's right here.
Yes.
Again.
Very quickly.
Tell us what happens.
It's pretend Star Trek was shot in the 80s. It's an 80s show versus like late 80s. Like it's like considered like a mid 80s show in this universe, I guess. And in this version, Star Trek's called Galaxy Quest, and it's the original series actors plus Wesley.
Did we say why we're doing this movie? People are gonna be downloading this. Is like, I thought this was Star Trek. These idiots are talking about fucking Galaxy Quest.
Well, it's gonna be labeled that way, so they should know. And then
Sarah, is this orange bad?
Hey, it's another one of those guys.
What the fuck? It's been bruised.
So it must be
it's had the shit kicked out of it. It looks like somebody beat the fuck out of it.
It looked like a blood orange from the beginning.
No, it's black. I wouldn't eat that.
Color.
I wouldn't eat that.
What color are blood oranges?
I guess that's the color.
The color of blood when you pop them open.
It's like a color of a bruise.
Yeah, it's the color of you getting your ass kicked after a couple days.
I mean, it is getting tinted by the blue light coming from his monitor, so
what does it taste like? Does it taste like an orange?
It tastes a little sour.
I mean,
that's appropriate for a citrus fruit.
Yeah.
It's not like the outside is not like it's not like it doesn't look rotten on the outside.
You've showed us a lot of questionable food today. The jelly beans, the Taco Bell jelly beans.
Oh yeah, nobody saw this or heard this because we hadn't started the podcast yet. But
is it actually branded Taco Bell?
Yeah, it's branded just Taco Bell.
I think it's I thought it was Taco Bell, but is this Taco Truck?
Oh, okay. Well, taco truck flavor jelly beans.
No, but it looks like the Taco Bell like styling is trying to be.
Yeah, they're trying to rip it off.
They meant to. Yeah,
they're ripping it off.
They're like, oh, this is taco. I don't know what's another word for bell. Taco ding or something. Taco ding.
That's so racist, dude. Taco ding? No, it's a taco campana.
Oh my god.
Well, anyway, this fake original series cast, they're doing pathetically because they haven't done anything since the show ended. And then the William Shatner of the group is summoned by real aliens called Thermians, and they need him to solve like some sort of crisis. So he goes, thinks he's being taken up by fans for like some sort of skit, like personal skit that they're going to shoot. But after he accidentally starts war with the warlord Saris, who, by the way, so the CG in this movie has not aged very well at all. Like it looks pretty bad.
Well, it's supposed to look like the original series, kind of, no?
Well, the original series doesn't use CG. I think the practical effects in the movie look pretty good.
Yeah,
Saris looks better than anything on TNG.
Oh yeah, Saris looks fantastic. The dock where the ship is leaving. I learned this from an episode of Adam Savage's YouTube channel, Tested, because he was visited by the guy who built that dock and the ship. This is all a huge miniature, and they did a whole shot where they're the only thing they CG'd in there were the little Thermians in the windows. Because that's how do you do that otherwise? But they actually had
toothpicks.
Little toothpick Stanson. But then they had them leave, and then Saris wants to start war because he wants the Omega-13, and the Omega-13 was like a secret device that was in the unreleased final 2-part ending of the Galaxy Quest TV show. It was never released. No one knows what it does, but the Thermians believe that Galaxy Quest is a historical document, and thus they have recreated the ship perfectly based on the random stupid bullshit they do in the show.
You need some pretty heavy suspension of disbelief about this entire setup.
Yeah, the setup is really stupid, but it's a comedy, so it's fine. Like you kind of go,
it's like
fine.
the Thermians are like
The Thermians
just
are
by
idiots.
watching those episodes.
Yeah, they're not smart enough to leave themselves, but they're smart enough to replicate they're smart enough to replicate a time machine.
Yeah.
Without knowing
without knowing that that's what it is. When the writers themselves didn't know what it was.
Yeah, it's
or at least that's heavily implied.
Yeah, it's really unbelievable, but whatever. It's that kind of thing because it's like a really stupid like TV show sort of thing. But then and then they ended up he ends up accidentally starting a war with them. And then, so when he's returned, he decides to bring the rest of his crew. They come back. They're trapped because they get invaded by Saris's army. And the ship gets fucked up because they end up in a magnetic minefield. The minefield attaches to them. And there's
just minefields all over space.
Yeah, it's just a thing. And then, it gets all fucked up. And they're like, we need to fix our engine. So they have an away mission. And they go to a planet, and this is where
the beryllium sphere is cracked.
Yeah, the beryllium sphere is cracked, so they gotta go to the planet.
So then they gotta get new dilithium crystals.
Yeah, they gotta get new dilithium beryllium. And then they find a sphere, but it's full of evil children. So then they have to run away, but Tim Allen gets captured. He has to fight a rock monster, but he gets successfully transported back to the ship by Tony Shalhoub. In the meantime, I guess Tony Shalhoub doing that makes one of the Thermian aliens fall in love with him, and he falls in love with her as well, like instantly, I guess. And then
comedy,
yeah. And then the ship is back to normal, and they decide, okay, let's fight Saris again.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Saris has taken over the ship at that point.
Yeah.
He boards, and they have to fight. And you have the moment where the whole movie, Alan Rickman's character has been having to say, what was it? Like,
by Grabthar's hammer, you shall be revenged.
Yeah, he hates that line, but there is like a super fan on the ship who follows all of his show like philosophy, and he dies, and Alan Rickman gets really sad. And he says the line with the most gravitas Alan Rickman has ever said a line.
Before he dies.
Yeah, to like... And
for his benefit.
For his benefit. And then he starts killing everyone on the ship by himself. Yes. And then they have to turn off the self-destruct sequence in the ship. There's a stupid, moving piston area that Tim Allen and Sigourney Weaver get through. They turn off the auto-destruct. It stops at 1 second. Even though they stopped
wait a minute.
Like 20 seconds beforehand.
You skipped over who guided them through all that.
Oh, yeah. So there's a super fan played by Justin Long back on Earth who Tim Allen had slighted. They accidentally swapped communication devices that the aliens gave him so he can actually talk to him back on Earth. And he goes, hey, you know exactly how all of this works, you and your friends. Help us get through this weird death trap that's in the show for no reason. And they get through. They turn off the self-destruct, which stops exactly at 1 second because... everything in the show stops at 1 second. And then they defeat Saris because in the meantime, during all this action, the Wesley character just learns how to drive the ship.
Yeah. By reviewing old episodes of the show. He had to rewatch the show to remember how to pilot the ship.
Yeah, but I guess apparently he was consistent enough on the show that he could...
I mean, you have to believe that the show was an unassailable Bible of information, or else none of this works.
Yeah,
absolutely none of this works.
He learns how to drive the ship super expertly. So this time, when they go back through the minefield, they do it correctly. They don't hit any mines, and in fact, start dragging mines. And the Saris' ship decides to attack them, but then they do like a chicken where they run at each other. And it turns out that the Protector, which is their version of the Enterprise, has been dragging mines the whole time. They hit him with the mines. Oh shit, crazy. And then, that's when they blow up the ship. And then they go back to Earth. But then on the way back to Earth, it turns out that Saris had teleported onto the Enterprise, the Protector, and kills everybody. But Tim Allen decides now's the time to activate the Omega-13, even though they're not 100% sure what it does. And it does.
Well, they had a working theory that it will send
Brandon told
13
them,
seconds, 13 seconds back in time.
Yeah, the Justin Long character tells them that.
We also skipped over the part where Saris forces Mrs. Nesbit to tell Mazarath that he's been lying to them this whole time.
Oh yeah, they reveal their lie to the Thermians.
That's an emotional moment that people, care about.
It's fine because the Thermians don't have a concept of pretending, so they're so innocent that they believe acting is a form of lying. It's not a form of entertainment.
Which it is.
Yeah,
it is.
So then they activate the Omega-13.
It's just that humans love lies.
They go 13 seconds back in time. Tim Allen stops Saris, and then they land
69 seconds, but whatever.
Oh, by the way, speaking of 69, this is the 69th episode of Newbie Star Trek.
Why the fuck did we burn out this, dude?
Wow, that's crazy.
Damn it, dude.
That's a milestone.
I'm upset now.
What would you rather have burned it on?
A sexy episode, dude.
This is kind of a sexy episode.
Not at all, dude.
Have you seen Sigourney Weaver?
And Tony Shalhoub gets fucked by a tentacle monster.
She keeps on cleaving it up all over the screen.
Yeah, Sigourney Weaver looks good in this movie. She's great.
And then
I
they
don't know
land back
how
on
old
Earth.
she was at this time, but
and then Saris, they all come out of the ship, and they land right into a convention, the same convention they started from.
Wow,
and
convenient.
Convenient convention. And then everyone thinks it's a special effect. They come out, everyone cheers. Saris also comes out, but then Tim Allen does a William T. Kirk style roll, shoots him with the phaser, and Saris
explodes him into nothing, and everyone cheers.
Yeah, explodes.
And it's great because of how much of a punchline his death is.
Yeah.
I actually really love that moment because it's like, wow, they really trivialize this.
Fuck this guy. And then everyone cheers, and it turns out that the show has been revived for a sequel series. It's called The Galaxy Quest: The Journey Continues, except the Sam Rockwell character, who was like the dispensable red shirt guy who was following them the whole movie, is now a main character. He's now Worf, and the alien Thermian that Tony Shalhoub hooked up with is now also a cast member. And that's the movie. It's a fine movie.
Hooray.
It's like 80s, 90s fun.
Yeah,
it's like your fun comedy. It's very much of the era, of the time.
Yeah. I would probably give it like...
It wouldn't work nowadays.
It might. I mean, it could still work. I think...
What movie like that would come out nowadays? And what would it spoof like Well, you know what? It could be like... Okay, it's like... I guess The Boys on Amazon if it were dark. You know what I mean? Like
The Boys
isn't The Boys pretty dark already?
Yeah, it's pretty dark.
And also The Boys
How much darker can you get?
But The Boys is also not about like a cast of people who are thrown into being superheroes.
No, but it's spoofing like Marvel stuff. Like that's the whole
But point. It's not like I don't think it's
it's spoofing Marvel stuff. That's the whole point.
It's not like a fish out of water movie though.
No, I'm
though.
not trying to compare it directly, Marvin. You're trying to make direct correlation. I'm saying it's like similar. Like,
It's like there's a layer of
it's a layer of spoof. Like they're definitely commentary. I don't want to say spoof, maybe commentary on the Marvel universe if it took a very dark turn.
There's something meta about it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not trying to say it's not an exact match. I'm not saying that. But that's what I think of when I think of modern day like commentary on popular movie franchise like Star Trek, Marvel.
I feel like Sam Rockwell's character like felt pretty like of its era. Whenever he started getting into like the very extensive breakdowns of this is what happens when this is the part where XYZ is supposed to blah blah blah, and that genre savvy meta commentary was like a lot more common in that era. I want to say.
Well, it was fine. I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. I probably am rating it higher just because I actually have a kind of a soft spot for this movie because when I was in 8th grade, my geometry teacher, Mr. Bisogno, this was one of his favorite movies. And during his lunch breaks, he would also watch this movie a lot. And he told me this is one of his favorite movies.
You
Mr.
just watch
Bisogno-
it like several times a year?
Yeah, every once in a while throughout the year, he'll just watch it again during lunch.
Okay. I was worried that he was like watching it every day during lunch.
Oh, no.
Sighing at the screen.
Why couldn't I be in this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr.
Turns out
Bisogno.
he's a serial killer.
well, Mr. Bisogno has unfortunately passed away since then.
Well.
And he was one of my favorite teachers. So whenever I watch this movie, I go, "Oh, it's Mr. Bisogno's favorite movie." That's what I thought.
I stand by my statement.
What do you guys?
How many starships we rated?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with 8.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like this is a case where, since Ricardo has actually seen it before, like he's had all this time to really, consider it and have like a dormant opinion he has to dust off and reevaluate before he gives it to us.
Well, because I just rewatched it again, like recently, so it was more of like I was judging like what I thought of it when I first saw it versus what I thought about it now.
Mm-hmm. And how does that differ?
Did
your opinion of it go up or down?
So here's the thing. I'll say this. It's about the same. I think when I first saw it, it was like a fun movie because it's like, oh, cool. It was, I had never seen, again, that's why we do the Newbie podcast, because I haven't seen Star Trek. Mm-hmm. So it was a very digestible version of Star Trek for me. Like, it's like, oh, Tim Allen, who I like at the time. And Sam Rockwell and like all these people. And like, it was really cool and digestible. But now that I've seen some of the show, I'm like, oh, yeah. I should like it more, but I like it just the same. I need somewhere to go, and I factor in Three Amigos, which is one of my favorite movies, meta movies like that. So if Three Amigos is like 9.5, then this has got to be like an 8.5.
Okay, I wonder. I would assume watching TNG didn't really change this viewing too much,
it's
right?
more the original series.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, so I would say the original show Galaxy Quest that they come from is like the original series, but the show that they reboot at the end of the movie is more like TNG. Like
probably,
the look of it too.
They get a security chief too, which I think the original series doesn't have. So
I think there was rumblings about this having a TV show.
Yeah, there's been a lot of different various movements to get a sequel to it or get a TV show that is like an in-universe version of Galaxy Quest or something like that.
Yeah.
Or, maybe they go back to the Thermians and they really do go back on the ship and really do ongoing space stuff.
Yeah.
But I think ever since Alan Rickman passed away, it's sort of been dead in the water. I mean, like, he's probably one of the most integral parts of that cast. Yeah. And it'd be really weird to do without him.
Just get Jeremy Irons.
And just replace him with some other British man.
It's his cousin. It's his brother. Yeah. Like Die Hard.
Yeah. Have him do the German accent he does in that movie.
Yeah.
What about you and Sarah? Dan and Sarah.
You first, Sarah.
I'm gonna give it 7.
You know what? I'm right there with you.
Yeah, because like I feel like it was fun to watch. I definitely was interested in the entire time. The entire time in the movie. Like, it held my interest. I didn't like find it boring or anything like that. I don't really like Tim Allen, so that really seeing him on screen.
Something you have to contend with, especially in modern day.
Seeing him on screen a lot bothered me. I really do like Monk. Maybe he should have been the role.
Well, have we ever discussed the whole like separating the artist from the art? Have we done that yet?
Yeah,
I don't think we've done that on the podcast.
I personally believe it's not possible, but that's just my opinion.
I feel like it is a very personal thing to develop an opinion on.
Yeah, some people can't, and personally, I've determined I cannot separate the
because I think some people are better able to do that than others.
Yeah, definitely, and no hate to if you can, but for me, if I just can't. If you're just a jerk in life and you've proved every otherwise, I don't really want to consume your art or your work or your music or whatever. So, yeah, which is why I don't often want to like meet people I like music because it ruins it. 99% of the time, 99% of the time, most people
that's the problem.
Sarah is proving her point that all humans are shit.
Yeah, all humans are shit, which is why I don't like a lot of stuff. I mean, I like stuff, but it's hard for me.
That's why then
I mean, unfortunately, we know so much about everyone now.
Yeah, I mean, like Chris Pratt or whatever. Oh my God! Ever since I heard he abuses animals and leaves his animals on the street and stuff like that, I can't with him and Anna, whatever. I just no go for me. Ever since I heard about what they do to their dogs and stuff, and I can't separate the animal cruelty from the person because I think it's a defined how you treat animals. I think speaks volumes about the kind of person you are. And I don't want to consume anything. And I don't want to consume anything that you make or create if you're like participate in that.
So for me, I have a broader theory or belief, I guess, that kind of ties.
You have a unified theory,
yeah, which is more that like there is almost no piece of art in general you can make that isn't political to some degree. Like almost every piece of art is going to impact something or someone somewhere in a way that's political. Even if the act of trying to make something that's not political is in and of itself a political act.
Yeah, so anything you do. In fact, and it's weird that we got into this weird philosophical conversation at the end.
You started
it. But
it's your fucking fault, dude.
I don't know what artist said this, but I agree with it wholeheartedly. If I make something, whether it's a podcast or a piece of writing or a movie or something, whatever it is, and I manage to piss one person off, then I've done my job. At least for me, that's like it's like, well, I affected somebody.
But there's justified pissing someone off, and then there's like kicking a dog or a cat, or not saying that Chris.
Well, I mean,
Pratt
if people aren't mad at me, then maybe I'll kick a dog to see it.
Like, you know what I mean? Like being cruel to animals and not knowing enough about like the Star Wars or Star Trek universe is like two totally different ways to piss people off.
Sarah,
you know what I mean?
Dude, we're in the same boat.
Like you know what I mean?
Man,
like
it's all art.
They're two different things. Like someone could be mad.
Yeah. Sarah, you digitally kicked a dog for not knowing.
Exactly.
The Thermians were.
Well, I'm sorry, everyone. Mispronouncing Guinan's name over and over is different than.
It's the same thing as kicking a dog.
Yeah. That's what I do.
Totally different. You know what I mean? Like that is like unjustified anger. Kicking a puppy or a cat, justified anger. Yeah. So I'd be like, oh, that person's stupid. Fine, get mad at me or get mad at us if we don't pronounce Guinan's name right or know enough about
to be
something.
fair, I do think it is justifiable to get angry at someone who is actively doing something to try to irritate you. If someone is going out of their way to irritate you, I feel like it is expected and acceptable to become irritated.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's a very easy goal to accomplish.
Yeah. Well, I will say for the record, I don't believe there's two like very popular art theories that I don't believe. One is death of the author. I don't believe in that at all. And I also don't believe in like auteur theory where you're like, oh, this guy is the author of the movie. Those are things I just don't believe in about art in general. Because like I said, art is inherently political. And like, I don't think it's like a type of thing where like you have to like dive in super deep into the artist to figure out a piece of art. A lot of art, you don't need to do that at all. It's more of like if a cat's already out of the bag kind of thing, that changes the way you view the art. It's just inescapable. It's basically living in a culture, and that culture is part of the way you perceive art. So I don't know. That's my spiel on how I think art looks like. All right. Well, I think that's enough about Galaxy Quest. It's next week
we're talking about Galaxy Quest.
Jen is next week. We'll talk about religion.
Oh, and happy April Fool's Day if this comes out on that, because we fooled you with this episode. You thought you were coming.
Yeah, you thought this was a Galaxy Quest podcast. Fuck you. This is a discussion about art and alternative theory. You fuck.
That's right. Fuck you.
Fucking idiot.
You got fucking punked. You got fooled. You're done.
stupid.
So you're so stupid for listening
Ratioed,
to this.
cope and see the motherfucker.
You thought you came here for Galaxy Quest and maybe you came here for Star Trek, but yeah, you got us.
Oh.
You got us. You thought Picard was going to start talking to you.
Yeah. You got a bunch of shit. That's what you got.
You got William Shatner and you got who else is before we mess up?
Fart something.
Yeah.
Yeah, Seth
MacFarlane.
MacFarlane.
Yeah, right.
Seth Fartland.
All right, next week we'll go back to TNG. We're gonna go back, actually watch Allegiance. I said that last episode, and that was a lie.
He was lying to you guys.
I mean,
he was lying. He knew he was lying
it's probably
too.
open to interpretation because he probably said something like next time.
No, I specifically. That's true.
You said next week? If you said next week, then your deceit is intact.
But that's the whole point of the April Fool's joke. Dan, you're missing the whole point of the setup. He set it up. He's working on the setup for a long time.
I'm questioning if he successfully set it up, though.
I could have done it incorrectly, like many things.
Yeah, because if he just said next time, then there's wiggle room. People can rationalize and headcanon it away.
Well, all right. We're gonna watch Allegiance next time. It might not be next week. We'll see. But in the meantime, if you've been liking this fucking episode or our podcast in general, it'd be great if you could give us a review wherever you're listening. On Apple Podcasts, you can do reviews. Podcast Addict, you can do reviews. And Spotify lets you do ratings. And that really actually helps us out quite a bit. So that'd be really cool. Also, we have an email that's contact@newbiestartrek.com. If you want to send us an email, we'll read it out on the podcast. We just might answer your question. That's contact@newbiestartrek.com. We're not going to do a letter this week.
For a moment I thought like, oh, wow, you're bringing an email right now?
Nah, we're not
like, we got an email? You said we got an email? I was like, oh, we do?
No, we're not going to do an email this week.
Did they know we were doing Galaxy Quest?
Just in case you're doing Galaxy Quest, I'm sending this email. Because I wouldn't
be surprised if someone at some point asked for us to take a look at it. Just like someone somewhere might have already had that thought.
Yeah, it's quite possible. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to waste someone's email on that. And we also do other stuff. We have the Fugitive Frames Film Podcast. We finally have a schedule down for when we're going to do those canon films. So we're gonna check those out and do stuff about that.
Canon.
It's going to become canon. And then we also have our YouTube channel, Fugitive Games. It's been a hot minute. It's going to be a hot minute till I can get back to streaming because we're about.
The minute just keeps getting hotter.
It's really hot because we're about to go traveling, and I can't really play the game on the computer while traveling. So that's going to be a thing.
If you had a gaming laptop, you could.
Yeah, but I just have this Mac. It's terrible.
You don't have a citizenship to the Republic of Gamers.
Yeah, I did.
You lost your passport.
I lost my passport to the ROG. So yeah, we're gonna eventually get back to making some stuff for that. Dan might stream. I don't know. He might stream some Elden Ring. I don't know what he's gonna do.
I really want to. I keep wanting to.
Maybe he will. But
maybe by the next time you listen to us, I will have already.
Yeah, and if you just check out the channels, there's just a bunch of stuff on it already. There's like tons of stuff for you to watch if you haven't seen anything on the channels. And all that stuff, you can just go to fugitiveframes.com and it has links to all of that stuff. So yeah, next time back to TNG, but until then, stay safe, everybody. We'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.
See ya. Bye.
Send it.
Okay.
Send it.
Sending now.